Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Katrina and this is Katrina Reads. Let's do a quick little book spotlight. I just read Spoiler Alert by Olivia Dade, and it was such a cute little romance book. I liked it specifically because the plus size rep, plus size. So I thought that was cute and sweet. And it also caught my attention because it was a very thinly veiled reaction to Game of Thrones. Let me read the synopsis to you. And Marcus Castor Rupp has a secret. While the world knows him as Aeneas, the star of the biggest show on TV, Gods of the Gates, he's known to fanfiction readers as Book Aeneas Would Never, an anonymous and popular poster. Marcus is able to get out his own frustrations with his character through his stories, especially the one who featured the internet's favorite couple to ship, Aeneas and Lavinia. But if anyone ever found out about his online persona, he'd be fired immediately. April Whittier has secrets of her own. A hardcore Lavinia fan, she's hidden her fan fiction and cosplay hobby from her real life for years, but not anymore. When she decides to post her latest Lavinia creation on Twitter, her photo goes viral. Trolls and supporters alike are commenting on her plus-size take, but when Marcus, one half of her OTP, sees her pic and asks her out on a date to spite her critics, she realizes life is really stranger than fan fiction. Even though their first date is a disaster, Marcus quickly realizes that he wants much more from April than a one-time publicity stunt. And when he discovers she's actually unapologetically Lavinia stan, his closest fandom friend, he has one more huge secret to hide from her. With love and Marcus's career on the line, can the two of them stop hiding once and for all? Or will a match made in fandom end up prematurely canceled? So that's basically what happens in the book. It's a play on Game of Thrones and how terrible that last season was, actually the last two seasons. And it also it's funny because instead of Dan and Dave, I forgot the name of the two people, but they have two R names, just like there's two D names, like those of us who talked about Game of Thrones online, or like for me, I talked to my husband about it too. D&D or Dan and Dave. Everybody gave them hate. The showrunners didn't show up to the con, just like Dan and Dave didn't show up to the Game of Thrones con last year, I think it was. There was a lot of overreactions and conflict brought on by the family members of both Marcus and April. She overreacts when Marcus innocently asks her to go. He's going to leave very early the next day after a really successful date, and the only time he has is going to the gym and getting breakfast, and after that he has to fly out, but he has to get a workout in because it's his job because of being an actor. And so she immediately flips the lid and says no and goes cold and everything like that. And then that's solved. They both have to deal with their family. Marcus is dyslexic and his parents are intellectuals and they never understood, and they don't understand his career or the show. And so they both have angst based around those two things. But they're very cute together. The conflict is so, people would probably say that it's unnecessary or it's cliche, but we have misunderstandings about stuff all the time. And most of us are not as dedicated to communicating as these guys were. They would have these conflicts. They go days without talking, being afraid that they were going to break up. But then they come back around and they talk about it because the relationship was important to them. And it happened multiple times. It wasn't just an end of there was a final conflict like you have in most romances, but there was some conflicts throughout. And I thought that was pretty realistic. And then there was some super, super steamy hotness going on towards the very end, like the one fourth end, 1/4 end of the book. I don't know if I'm saying that right. And it was so funny because there was so much character building and talk about plus size rep and the fandom community and dyslexia and family and all this stuff. And then when I got to the final fourth of the book or so, I was listening to an audiobook, and my husband kept coming in and out of the room, and he's just like, "What are you listening to?" And covering our dog's ear. The dog was laying on the bed, and I was just like, it just got steamy like this. And he was like, Sure, you're listening to porn. So no, but just be aware, if you like that, it comes in the end. There's lots of character building throughout the beginning part. It's very sweet. It's very modern. Lots of Twitter talk and fan fiction and Game of Thrones like TV stuff. And so it's very recognizable to those of us who are nerds and like TV and reading fan fiction. I'm not huge in the fan fiction community, but I'm not against reading a fanfic once or twice a year. I used to be much more into fan fiction when I was into the supernatural, Destiel, but that hurt my feelings. That ship for that community, that not the community, the writers of the show hurt my feelings. So that was the last big fan fiction. Twilight and Supernatural were big fan fiction communities I was part of. I am a natural lurker, so I never really wrote very much, but I definitely read tons of it, got excited about it, loved it. And so I understand all of that, all the reading, the nerdiness. I admire cosplayers and people who go to cons and stuff. I don't have that type of lifestyle or energy, but I do follow cosplay people on, like TikTok and Instagram, and I just love it because I love makeup and expressing yourself that way, and they take it to a different level. And I hated the last 2 seasons of Game of Thrones. I read into the shady statements that everybody said in interviews while trying to keep their jobs. This book was just super relatable, super cute, lots of rep, and sexy and fun. And I recommend it. I gave it 3 stars just because, I think I'll bump it up to 4 stars because I really don't have anything bad to say about it. I was gonna say that some of the arguments were a little, but I really think that's how people react. People act like that. People hear one thing and snap off, all the time. It wasn't an unrealistic conflict. And again, while we go to romance and fantasy and cozy mysteries to escape reality, I think some of the escapism is just the fact that, this girl who was plump put her cosplay on Twitter, and from that got to meet somebody who would look like Kit Harington, or I don't know, who's the most good looking guy? Chris Evans. It would be like somebody, cosplaying Black Widow and her boyfriend or her friend being, Chris Evans, and then everybody giving her guff and Chris Evans asking her out for a date. That could happen, but for the most part, that's fantastical. And so that was just an escape, and it put a smile on your face. And I love their little relationship in the end, but because I knew there was still that last, he didn't tell her about who he was until the very end. So that was, as much as you were smiling and enjoying their little cutesy this and cutesy that, and you still were stressed out the rest of the time thinking, he still hasn't told her that he is book Aeneas would never. Aeneas book would never. And so that was some nice little tension that's, was sustained over the book. And I listened to it. It seemed like a good length of a book, but I flew right through it. What else can you ask for? Except for more people of color. That's it. So tell me what you thought of the book. Put a sword in the, I don't even know if there's sword emojis, but if there is, put a sword emoji or a knife emoji in the conversation box down below if you made it to the end of this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.